the way in which business runs today is not the way business has always run. Philosophies we have and espouse about quote unquote capitalism is not Adam Smith capitalism. Adam Smith believed the customer came first, and that the purpose of capitalism was consumption, not production. And Milton Friedman defined the purpose of business, the responsibility of business, to maximize profit. That was the only item on his list. He saw business as very one-dimensional. And unfortunately, his philosophies were completely embraced and used as a foundation for new ways to view capitalism, and especially in the 80s and 90s, which were boom years, cannot forget, relative peace in the world. And we saw the rise of things like shareholder supremacy, which didn't really exist prior, not to the degree we have it today. We saw the rise of massive amounts of short-termism. We saw the rise of changing the way in which we incentivized our executives based on the price of an equity rather than the performance of the company. Those two things don't necessarily have to go together. We started to see the acceptance of using mass layoffs on a regular basis to manage the books. Think about that. Companies use people's livelihoods to meet arbitrary projections. They're profitable, just not as profitable as they promised, so you lose your job. And now they wonder why a young generation is completely disloyal and shows no loyalty to companies. That's because they've grown up in a world where their parents got laid off through no fault of their own. It's not a meritocracy anymore. And we idolized people like Jack Welch, who did more damage for American business than probably almost any leader we've had. And so, and anybody who speaks out against the form of capitalism we have is accused of being a socialist these days, which is nuts. I'm a diehard capitalist, but we have bastardized capitalism. We have to return to a time where capitalism exists more for just profit, but it exists on three levels, which is to advance a purpose, to protect people, take care of people, and make profit. Absolutely, profit is essential, but not at the cost of people and not at the cost of advancing something bigger than ourselves. The purpose of companies is to offer value, and value means that you're producing something, you're making a product or selling a service that in some way, shape, or form enhances the life of people or companies or society. Whether you make our life a little easier, a little more fun, a little more convenient, it doesn't matter. That's what value is. Value is a perception that you have somehow made my life better. It's not a calculation. And I think we need to make the definition and responsibility of business more dynamic than we currently use. In the current definition, to advance profit within the bounds of the law, what about ethics? What about ethics? And just look at any congressional hearing when there's some sort of uncomfortable dealings that a business is having. Wells Fargo, opening up millions of fake bank accounts, or a pharmaceutical company with a patent on an essential drug, raising the price of that drug 500, 800, 1,000, 1,200%. And they all say the same ridiculous thing when they're testifying in front of Congress. We broke no law. We didn't do anything illegal. True, 100% true. Didn't do anything illegal, but it's highly unethical. And I think we need to restore that into business. And what we will find is that people will restore their faith in companies. We're seeing a rise of populism around the world. That's not coming from nowhere. That's a response to something. And some of the capitalists that run the world right now, they defend the status quo predominantly because they benefit from it. But I think it has to change before it collapses.